Okay, will Kyle Larson ever race in NASCAR ever again? This is a very controversial topic considering what is going on in the wider world right now, and as NASCAR has returned to our screens. Now, I'm a NASCAR fan, and that may be a surprise to many North Americans that a British person would like NASCAR, but I like motorsport, and NASCAR is one of the most competitive wheel-to-wheel racing motorsport classes and series out there. I watch the Truck Series, the Xfinity Series, and the Main Cup Series. I'm a big fan of it. I watch as many races as possible every season. And Kyle Larson is one of the most aggressive drivers in recent years. His driving style is very aggressive. He'll take lines on an oval that other drivers at that time in the race will not do. And even on the road courses, he's again very aggressive, and he does do some pretty aggressive overtakes. So he's a fun driver to watch on a driving standpoint. However, back in April, obviously we know what he did during that esports event. He made a racial slur during the esports event. It was picked up, and he was suspended. NASCAR suspended him indefinitely. His team ordered him to go to counselling and race relations seminars. But within 24 hours, however, they sacked him. And this is all during the lockdown, so there's no actual races taking place at this point. It's all esports. They're all doing their computer game esports thing. Obviously, things have happened since then that may put pressure on NASCAR to keep him out of the sport, and that is the George Floyd death in Minneapolis, and the protests and the riots and the civil rights debate and everything that's gone with that, not just in the US, but around the world. And now NASCAR have brought in the Confederate battle flag of Northern Virginia ban, or the stars and bars as we all know it, from race events going forward. Things have changed since April. The last 2 and a bit months, a lot has happened since his mistake. I'm going to call it a mistake. I do believe in giving people a second chance, and race relations is a big thing right now. Racism and police brutality and all this is a big thing right now. NASCAR would be very brave right now to give him a way back in, but I do believe in second chances, and I do believe in offering that fig leaf and that olive branch to someone to redeem themselves. Any NASCAR team who had a spot on their roster, if he was a normal off contract and in any normal circumstance, would have signed him in a heartbeat. This complicates matters. Now, it's a very tough decision for NASCAR to take. It is an indefinite suspension, but we have seen drivers get suspended before for lengthy periods and allowed back into various motorsports. We have seen drivers who've done things, maybe not race related, but done things and get suspended. We've seen sports stars in a variety of sports get suspended indefinitely and then allowed back into the sport they participate in. So at the moment, I can't see NASCAR being that brave. I think they are trying to distance themselves from the situation. But at the same time, you look at his racing credentials, and he is racing in another series right now and doing quite well. And you have to think NASCAR are playing a very delicate balancing act. But with what's going on, we've seen football players and rugby players and soccer players and all that banned for making racial comments or racism. We've seen it. Luis Suarez, he only got 8 games for what he did with Patrice Evra. 8 games. Bear that in mind. I'm using that as a precedent here. An indefinite ban is not 8 games, which equates to 8 weeks. Just putting that out there. 8-week ban for Luis Suarez, basically, for his racial allegations of racism against Patrice Evra several seasons ago when he was playing for Liverpool. The John Terry situation with Ferdinand, again, he didn't really get a ban for that. He was benched for a while. So some other sports have dealt with things differently. Drew Brees in the NFL has copped a lot of criticism for some of the things he said on social media. So this is not a new thing. What is also interesting is Kyle Larson is of mixed race. His mum is Japanese. He is of a mixed race background. Bubba Wallace on the grid is of a mixed race background. Suarez, he's a Mexican Latino. So there is some diversity on the NASCAR grid. So that makes it even more interesting that Kyle Larson is of a mixed race background to have said what he has said. He's also from a pretty a state in California that has had its own fair share of divisiveness over race relations. So there's a lot going on background, but NASCAR itself, I think, right now won't let him back in. In time, it's a possibility, but we have to see what happens with the civil rights movement and race relations and these protests and riots that are going on around the world. And we also have to see if Kyle Larson shows any remorse for his mistake. Now, he's shown nothing up to this point until that incident of being anything but an aggressive driver who seems actually off the racetrack to be a decent bloke. So, whether he has held these views for a long time, another thing. But with the way NASCAR has now banned the Confederate battle flag from events, the Stars and Bars, and has made a big thing in the recent race meets to do with the Black Lives Matter movement and saying we need to do more to improve race relations and make our sport more diverse. The fan base is divided. There are those saying they're never going to watch NASCAR again, and there are those saying this is the right step in the right direction, we're making progress. So it's a divisive topic. It's going to be divisive in the comments. I know this, but will he ever return? That is a question I'm putting to you guys. Do you think he returns? Do you think NASCAR upholds the indefinite ban? But as we've seen in other events with Luis Suarez and John Terry, some of these bans are a couple of weeks for some of the things that have been said and done on a football pitch or a soccer pitch to Americans, because I think a lot of Americans will watch this video. And we'll have to see what happens. I don't think NASCAR will overturn his ban this year. Next year, it's a possibility, but it's not looking anything more, I would say, less than 30% possibility. That's my personal view on it, with what's going on right now and the state of play with society. But we'll have to see what happens going forward. I mean, NASCAR have a big decision to make if they do allow it back into the sport. But thank you very much for watching. This is a very, very divisive topic, I know, and it's going to be very, very divisive in the comments. But please, obviously, the passions run high at this time, but we'll have to see what happens. We have to take a wider view outside the box and go, does he hold these views long term? Or is this him just getting mucking around in an esports event and saying something he shouldn't have? I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts below, and I'll have some more videos for you very, very soon.